After years together, you realized you had different dreams, but did you ever question whether you were truly compatible? I had been with my girlfriend for 5 years. We met in college, a whirlwind of late-night study sessions and cheap pizza. At the time, she felt like the perfect fit. We shared the same major, laughed at the same jokes, and both wanted the same things out of life, or so I thought. After graduation, I began to see things differently. The future felt a lot more real. I also started to feel like maybe we weren't as aligned as I initially believed. I noticed small things. She always deferred to my opinions when we were with friends. She never seemed to want to try new restaurants or visit different places. I suggested a weekend trip to the mountains, and she wanted to go to the beach. I wanted to invest more aggressively, and she wanted to play it safe. These disagreements seemed minor at first, but they slowly grew into larger issues. I tried to talk with her about my feelings. I told her that I felt like we were growing apart. I explained that I wanted her to express her own opinions more. I suggested we try new things together. She always brushed it off. She said I was overthinking things. She assured me that we were fine. I wanted to believe her, but I could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I felt like she was content, and I was not. I didn't understand how things could change so quickly. The first couple of years were great. We finished college together, got jobs in the same city, and even moved into a small apartment. We were building a life together. Her family loved me, and mine loved her. We attended every holiday gathering, birthday party, and graduation. Everything seemed perfect. But then things shifted. Slowly, subtly, like the tide creeping in, our paths began to diverge. I started to realize I wanted something different than what she envisioned. I noticed I wasn't as excited about our shared plans. We had talked about buying a house together. We discussed getting married and starting a family. Those ideas seemed less appealing now. I could not picture myself settling down in the way we had planned. I needed more space to figure out my own goals. I felt guilty about these changing feelings. I did not want to hurt her. I knew this would likely end our relationship. I did not share these feelings with her right away. I needed time to understand them myself. I started spending more time alone. I explored different hobbies and interests. I went to museums and concerts by myself. I took long walks and thought about my future. This exploration led me back to something I had forgotten I loved. I found myself drawn to creative pursuits. I always enjoyed writing as a kid, but somewhere along the way, I stopped. One day, I picked up a pen again. It started with journaling, then short stories, and finally, I began working on a novel. It felt amazing. I felt alive. She did not share the same enthusiasm. She worked in finance. A stable, secure career was what she strived for. She saw my writing as a hobby, something I would eventually outgrow. She would ask how the little project was going, not really listening to my response. I think she thought she was being supportive. I do not think she understood. It felt dismissive, even if it was not intended to be. I tried explaining the fulfillment I felt when I wrote. I told her about the positive feedback I received online. She nodded and smiled, then changed the subject to our retirement plan. I began to feel like my passion was an inconvenience. I started hiding my writing from her. I wrote when she went to bed. I woke up early to write before she woke up. It became a secret part of my life. This division grew wider. I felt disconnected from her. We used to share everything. Now, I guarded a significant part of myself. I knew this was not healthy for our relationship. I also knew I could not give up writing. It was too important to me. I needed to find a way to reconcile these two parts of my life. I needed her to understand, but I did not know how to make her see what I saw. I started feeling like two different people. There was the me that went to work every day, did my job, came home, ate dinner, and watched television. Then there was the me that stayed up late writing, dreaming of different worlds, and feeling a sense of purpose I had not experienced in years. I tried to share this part of myself with her. I would read her excerpts from my book, excited to hear her thoughts. She would listen politely, then offer some generic comment, before changing the subject. I felt like I was talking to a wall. I did not understand why she acted this way. I poured my heart into my writing. Her lack of interest stung. It made me question if she truly knew me. It made me wonder if she even cared to. I began to notice other differences between us. I enjoy trying new restaurants. I like to visit museums. She prefers to stay home and watch television. I wanted to grow and evolve. She wanted to remain stagnant. This difference became a significant point of contention. It was not just my writing. I started to crave new experiences. I wanted to travel, explore different cultures, and learn new things. She preferred the comfort of routine. She liked our life exactly as it was. The thought of disrupting the established order made her anxious. One evening, we had a conversation that changed everything. I brought up the idea of taking a trip to South America. I had been reading about Patagonia and felt a strong pull to go there. She laughed. I explained that I did not expect her to quit her job. I thought maybe we could go for a week or so during her vacation time. I showed her pictures of the mountains and the glaciers. I described the food I wanted to try. I emphasized that it would be an adventure we could share. I thought if she could visualize herself there, she would be more open to the idea. I hoped that maybe if she saw how much it meant to me, she would consider it. She remained firm in her position. She said that she understood it was something I wanted to do. She also stated that she had no interest in that type of travel. She added that spending her limited vacation time hiking was not appealing. She suggested that I go with a friend. She even offered to help me find someone who would enjoy the trip as much as I would. She laughed and said, "That sounds like fun for you, but you know I cannot just leave my job for weeks at a time. And honestly, camping and hiking are really not my thing." It hit me then. It hit me hard. We wanted different things. Not just different hobbies, or different vacation spots. We wanted different lives. I thought about our future. I imagined holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries. I pictured us in 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years. The thought felt like wearing clothes that did not fit. I could not breathe. The future I imagined felt like a sentence. It was not a life I wanted. I got out of bed and went to the living room. I sat on the couch and stared at the wall. I considered what to do. I knew I could not stay in the relationship. I did not want to hurt her, but I also could not continue living a lie. I needed to be honest with myself, and with her. I resolved to speak with her in the morning. That night, I did not sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying the conversation in my head. I could not ignore the truth. I was not happy. She was not happy either, but she did not know it, or simply she did not care. We were going through the motions, living a life that looked good on the outside but felt empty on the inside. The next few weeks were agonizing. I knew what I had to do, but I dreaded it. I did not want to hurt her. I cared about her deeply, but I could not pretend any longer. I could not sacrifice my happiness for the sake of comfort and familiarity. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to end things. I considered writing a letter, but that seemed impersonal. I thought about just moving out and avoiding the conversation altogether. That felt cowardly and unfair. She deserved an explanation, even if it was difficult to give. I knew any conversation would be painful. There was no way to avoid hurting her. I just wanted to do it in a way that minimized the damage and allowed her to maintain some dignity. I wanted to be honest without being cruel. This was a challenge. I felt isolated with this secret weighing on me. I needed to discuss this with someone. I needed an outside perspective. I considered talking to my parents, but I knew they would be biased. They always liked her and would likely try to convince me to stay. My sister was too involved in her own life to offer any real advice. I wanted to talk to someone who knew me well. I also wanted them to be detached from the situation. My best friend seemed like the best option. I trusted him, and I knew he would be honest with me, even if it was not what I wanted to hear. I decided to talk to my best friend first. I needed to verbalize my feelings to someone who wasn't directly involved. We met at a bar near my place. I explained the situation, stumbling over my words, trying to convey the weight of my decision. He listened patiently, offering words of support and encouragement. He reminded me that sometimes, the hardest decisions are the right ones. He told me that staying in a relationship where I was unhappy would be worse for both of us in the long run. I thought about what he said for a long time. I considered every angle and potential outcome. I knew he was right, deep down, but it was still difficult to accept. I spent a sleepless night thinking about our history together. I remembered all the good times and the reasons I fell in love with her in the first place. I also remembered all the recent struggles and the growing distance between us. I acknowledged we had both tried to fix things, but our efforts always seemed to fall short. I realized that I could not continue living a lie. I needed to be true to myself and to her, even if it meant causing pain. I considered postponing the conversation, but I knew that would only prolong the inevitable. I owed it to her to be direct and honest about my feelings. I decided to talk to her the next day, no matter how difficult it would be. His words gave me the courage I needed. I knew it would be painful, but I had to be honest with her and with myself. I came home later that night. She was already in bed, reading a book. I sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. This was it. I did not want to start a fight. I just wanted to be honest. I knew it would hurt her feelings. I could not keep living a lie. The guilt was eating me up inside. I had to tell her the truth, no matter what the consequences were. I hoped she would understand, but I doubted it. I told her I had something important to say. She looked up from her book. Her expression was unreadable. I hesitated for a moment. Then I blurted it out. I told her I was not happy. "We need to talk," I said softly. She looked up, a flicker of concern in her eyes. She knew something was wrong. I could tell. I did not want to tell her. I knew it would hurt her, but I also knew I could not keep it inside any longer. It was eating me up. I had been avoiding this conversation for months. I made excuses to stay late at work. I went to the gym more often. I did anything to avoid being alone with her, because I knew the truth would come out eventually. The longer I waited, the worse it would be. I knew that. I just didn't want to face it. She deserved better than that. She deserved honesty. She deserved someone who wanted the same thing she did. I was not that person anymore. I took a deep breath. I started talking. I told her I was unhappy. I told her I felt trapped. I told her I felt like I was living someone else's life. I told her I did not see a future for us. It was hard to say those words. They felt like a betrayal, even though it was the truth. I watched her face as I spoke. I saw the confusion, then the hurt, then the realization. It was awful. I wished I could take it back. I could not. I had to be honest. I had to be true to myself, even if it meant hurting her. I told her everything. I told her how I had been feeling, how our paths had diverged, how I needed something different out of life. I told her about my writing, my desire to travel, my need to explore. She listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she did not say anything for a long time. The silence was deafening. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm, almost detached. "I knew this was coming," she said quietly. I felt it too. I was surprised. I expected anger, tears, maybe even denial. But she seemed resigned, as if she had been expecting this all along. She admitted that she had been feeling unfulfilled as well. She had been clinging to the idea of stability and security, afraid to step outside her comfort zone. She knew my passions were pulling me in a different direction, and she did not want to hold me back. We talked for hours that night. We cried, we laughed, we reminisced about the good times. It was painful, but also cathartic. We both knew it was the right thing to do. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics and emotions. We had to divide our belongings, find separate apartments, and disentangle our lives. It was messy and complicated, but we managed to do it with respect and compassion. I moved into a small studio apartment in a different part of the city. It was smaller and less comfortable than our old place, but it felt like a fresh start. I had more time and space to focus on my writing. She moved back in with her parents for a while, giving her time to figure out her next steps. We stayed in contact, checking in on each other, offering support from a distance. The breakup was hard, but it was also liberating. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was free to pursue my dreams, to explore my passions, to live the life I wanted to live. I poured myself into my writing. I finished my novel, started submitting it to agents, and even began working on a new project. I also started traveling. I took a solo trip to Iceland, hiking through glaciers and marveling at the northern lights. It was an incredible experience. A year later, I got an email from a literary agent. She had read my manuscript and loved it. She wanted to represent me. I was ecstatic. My book was published a year after that. It did not become a bestseller, but it received positive reviews, and I felt a sense of accomplishment I had never experienced before. I ran into her a few years later. It was at a coffee shop downtown. I almost did not recognize her. She looked different. She wore her hair shorter, and she carried herself with a newfound confidence. We greeted each other warmly, catching up on each other's lives. She told me she had quit her job in finance and started her own business. She was happier than she had ever been. She said she was proud of me, proud of my book, and proud of the choices I had made. She admitted that the breakup had been the best thing for both of us. It had forced her to reevaluate her life and to pursue her own passions. We parted ways with a hug and a promise to stay in touch. As I walked away, I felt a sense of peace and gratitude. We had both found our paths, even though they led us in different directions. Realizing I was with the wrong person was painful. Acting on that realization was even harder. But it was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to grow, to discover my true self, and to live a life that is authentic and fulfilling. It allowed her to do the same. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting go.